just a few steps away from death, Ranga met a mysterious veteran no one ever expected to appear. As his body was close to freezing in the thick fog, Ranga saw a strange figure standing calmly on the narrow trail, staring at it without fear, and speaking in a deep voice, "I will not let you die here." In the steep and slippery mountains of Long, Ranga had planned to conquer the summit trail alone. He thought he was experienced enough, even though he only carried one bottle of water and some stale bread in his backpack. The weather was clear when he started, giving him confidence, but now nature seemed to punish him. A sudden storm arrived. The fog fell to cover every trail mark, and rain soaked him to the bone. He was lost, circling endlessly without direction, then stumbled on a tree root and fell. His breath was ragged, his body shivering hard, and fear began creeping into his chest. When Ranga was almost desperate, the sound of footsteps came through the wet leaves. Slowly, an old man appeared from within the fog. His clothes were worn out, but his posture was firm. His gaze was deep, almost frightening, yet somehow calming. "Follow me," the old man said softly. Without having time to think, Ranga followed his steps. They pushed through thorny bushes, going down a trail almost invisible from the rain. The ground was slippery. The trees bowed heavy with water, and the fog rolled in like thick smoke. The old man walked quickly despite his age. His movements were efficient, as if he had crossed this route 1,000 times. Ranga could not understand how such a person could appear in this wild mountain and in such a desperate moment. They stopped at a large rock crevice, a spot dry enough to shelter. The old man immediately lit a campfire using wet twigs, his hands moving swiftly like a trained soldier. The fire gave Ranga a bit of relief. He looked at the stranger with countless questions, but his tongue was frozen. Whenever he tried to ask, fear still controlled his mind. The old man only looked toward the dark forest, as if watching something invisible. A flash of lightning lit up the distant sky, revealing his harsh features. "Rest. Tomorrow we continue," he said briefly. Near the fire, Ranga tried to sleep even though his clothes were soaked through. His head was full of confusion. Who was this person? How could he be so skilled in the wild? And why was he willing to help with no reward? That night, the sound of rain mixed with the whistling wind through the stone crevice. Among the snapping branches and the calls of night birds, Ranga saw the old man tying knots with perfect precision. His movements were confident, as if he was no ordinary man. As his eyes finally grew heavy, only one sentence kept echoing in his mind: "I will not let you die here." And behind those words, Ranga sensed something far greater, as if the old man carried a promise that could not be explained by logic alone. Ranga opened his eyes in the dim morning light. The rain had stopped, leaving behind only a thin mist clinging to the trees. The fire was still glowing faintly, kept alive by the old man who watched it with sharp, unwavering eyes. Without saying much, the old man gestured for Ranga to stand. His movements were quick, and Ranga had to hurry to keep up. They stepped back into the forest, following a path that seemed to appear out of nowhere, hidden behind thick bushes and mossy stones. Every step felt heavier for Ranga. His body was sore, legs stiff from the cold night, and the slippery ground made it even harder. But the old man showed no sign of slowing down. He moved through the trail as if it were carved into his memory, avoiding loose rocks and deep mud with incredible precision. Ranga tried to talk while they walked. "Who are you, sir?" The old man only looked ahead and replied softly, "Someone who knows these mountains better than himself." His voice carried a weight Ranga could not define, like a man who had lived through more than a lifetime of hardship. They crossed a broken wooden bridge, its ropes rotting and its planks cracked. Ranga hesitated, but the old man stepped forward first, testing each board carefully. He tied a rope around Ranga's waist, guiding him across, making sure the boy would not fall. On the other side, Ranga saw deep scratches on the rocks, almost like claw marks. He shivered, realizing what kind of wild animals might live around here. The old man seemed to notice his fear. "Don't worry. Nothing will come close to us," he said calmly. Ranga wondered what gave the old man such confidence. As they moved on, the forest grew thicker, with twisted branches clawing at their clothes. Sometimes they had to crawl through tight passages where Ranga could barely breathe. When they finally reached a wider clearing, Ranga saw a strange marker, a small pile of stones arranged in a perfect circle. He asked what it meant, but the old man only stared at it for a long moment before walking past without explanation. They continued through narrow ridges, where one slip could send them tumbling into the ravine below. The wind howled, shaking the trees, but the old man stayed calm, always knowing where to place his feet. The longer Ranga followed him, the more he felt something different about this man. It was not just experience. It was as if he belonged to the mountain itself, an unbreakable part of its harsh and merciless soul. As dusk approached, they reached a cave half hidden by thick vines. The old man signaled for them to rest inside. He quickly made another fire, using damp twigs and dry grass he carried in a small pouch. Ranga watched in awe as the flames grew strong. "Where did you learn all this?" Ranga finally asked, unable to hold back any longer. The old man only smiled faintly, eyes reflecting a lifetime of shadows. "Life taught me," he answered. Ranga had no words left. Deep inside, he knew there was more to this stranger than he could ever understand. The night fell with a biting cold, and the sound of distant howls echoed through the valley. Ranga pulled his jacket tight around him, glancing at the old man who kept watch at the cave's entrance, guarding him like a silent sentinel. The wind grew colder that night, crawling into every crack of the cave walls. Ranga tried to sleep, but the distant sound of branches snapping outside kept him awake. He watched the old man, who sat near the cave entrance with his back straight, never once closing his eyes. How could someone stay awake after such a long day? Ranga wondered, but his own exhaustion finally overcame him. Just before dawn, a loud rustle woke Ranga. He sat up, heart pounding, and saw a pair of glowing eyes just beyond the firelight. Something was moving between the trees. The old man rose without fear, gripping a sturdy wooden staff. He stood in front of Ranga, shielding him with his thin, weathered body. "Stay calm," he whispered. Ranga tried to breathe steadily, watching in terror as the creature slowly stepped forward. It was a wild boar, massive and bristling, foam dripping from its mouth. The animal snorted, pawing the ground as if preparing to charge. The old man did not flinch. With a sudden motion, he swung the staff low, striking a stone to make a loud cracking sound. The boar froze, startled by the unexpected noise, then turned and ran back into the forest. Ranga could only stare. The old man lowered the staff, eyes still fixed on the darkness outside the cave. "No matter what comes, I will protect you," he said firmly. As the sun finally rose, they packed up and left cave. Ranga tried to thank him, but the old man only nodded and started walking again. The trail became even more difficult that day. They had to climb over fallen logs, cross streams swollen with rain, and squeeze through narrow rock gaps. The old man moved steadily, never hesitating, and Ranga had to struggle to match his pace. As they passed a mossy cliff, Ranga slipped. In an instant, the old man caught his wrist with an iron grip, saving him from plunging down the slope. Ranga's heart was beating wildly, but the old man pulled him back to safety with surprising strength. "Be careful. You only get one life," he reminded softly. They kept moving until the trees thinned out, revealing a sweeping view of the valley below. Ranga was overwhelmed by the beauty, but the old man seemed focused on the path, eyes always searching for danger. Far down the ridge, they saw smoke rising, maybe a search party. Ranga thought hopefully, but the old man held up his hand. "Not yet," he said. "Why?" Ranga asked. "It is not safe," the old man replied, voice flat. A chill ran through Ranga's spine. What did he mean, not safe? Who was this man who seemed to know everything about the mountain, who moved like a ghost through the wilderness, and who was ready to defend him at any cost? As evening approached, they found a shallow pool fed by a small spring. The old man let Ranga drink and wash his face. When Ranga looked into the water, he saw his own reflection, haggard and tired, but also the reflection of the old man behind him, calm, steady, and unshaken. Deep down, Ranga realized he was still alive only because of this stranger, and yet he felt no closer to understanding who he really was. The night was falling again, slower this time, as if giving Ranga a chance to gather his courage. They set up camp near the spring, surrounded by tall trees whose shadows danced in the flickering firelight. The old man was silent, busy sharpening a small knife on a flat stone. The rhythmic sound of steel on rock echoed through the clearing, somehow both calming and unsettling. Ranga sat across from him, staring at the glowing embers. "Why do you help me?" Ranga finally dared to ask. The old man paused for a moment, eyes reflecting the flames. "No one should die alone on this mountain," he answered simply. The words felt heavy, as if they carried memories too painful to name. Ranga nodded, swallowing hard. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw the face of the wild boar and the way the old man had stepped in front of him without hesitation. In the middle of the night, a cold wind blew stronger. Ranga shivered under his thin blanket. The old man stood guard again, as if rest was a luxury he no longer needed. Ranga watched him, wondering what kind of life could turn someone into a protector like this. "Who are you really?" Ranga whispered, though he knew there would be no answer. The old man glanced over, offering a faint smile that was gone almost as soon as it appeared. "Get some sleep," he said. The fire burned low, casting strange shadows on the cave walls. Ranga thought he heard voices, maybe the wind, maybe something else, but he was too exhausted to care. As dawn came, they packed up and moved once more. The path became cruel, forcing them to crawl over jagged stones and balance on slick tree roots. Every time Ranga stumbled, the old man was there, a steady hand pulling him back, a calm voice guiding him forward. When the sun was high, they reached a ridge that overlooked a deep canyon. Ranga felt dizzy staring at the drop. The old man tied a rope around both of their waists, testing each knot with perfect confidence. He moved first, planting his feet firmly, then signaled for Ranga to follow. They crossed the ledge slowly, step by step, the wind pulling at their bodies, trying to knock them into the abyss. Ranga was trembling, but the old man did not even blink. At last they reached the other side. Ranga collapsed, breathing hard, while the old man calmly coiled the rope again, as if it was nothing. "You saved my life," Ranga said between gasps. The old man looked down at him, eyes gentle yet filled with something old, something powerful. "You'll understand someday," he replied. They rested under a tree, eating the last bit of bread Ranga had carried. The old man refused to take a share, saying he had no hunger left in him. The silence between them grew, filled only by the rustling of leaves and the distant cry of an eagle. As the afternoon faded, Ranga studied the old man's face again. There were scars there, lines etched by battles long forgotten, and a sadness he could not describe. It was clear the old man had survived more than the mountain. He had survived life itself, and carried that burden with quiet strength. Ranga could not shake the feeling that this stranger was far more than a simple hiker or wanderer. There was a promise behind those eyes, a promise that someday would reveal itself, no matter how long it took. The morning air was heavy with mist, wrapping around the trees like silent ghosts. Ranga rubbed his hands together, trying to fight off the cold that seemed to seep into his bones. The old man stood a few steps away, scanning the horizon with a quiet intensity. He looked like a soldier on watch, alert to every sound and movement. After a moment, he turned and nodded. "We keep moving," he said. The trail ahead was narrower than before, barely wide enough for one person. On one side, the ground dropped sharply into a ravine, hidden by a thick layer of fog. Ranga swallowed hard, but followed. Each step felt like a gamble with fate, but the old man's steady pace gave him a strange sense of safety. Halfway down the path, they found an old wooden sign nailed to a tree, its paint nearly gone from years of rain and wind. "Danger. Landslide area." The old man studied the sign for a long time, then pressed his hand against the trunk, as if remembering something. Ranga waited, breath held, until the old man finally spoke. "Many lives ended here," he murmured. Ranga felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. They kept going, stepping carefully around loose rocks and crumbling earth. The old man tested each foothold before letting Ranga follow. As they reached a slightly wider section of the trail, Ranga saw something that made him pause. Carved into the stone wall was a date, barely visible. It was from decades ago, and next to it, a name. Ranga looked at the old man, who seemed to stiffen when he saw the carving. "Did you know them?" Ranga asked softly. The old man took a deep breath. "Yes," he answered. Nothing more was said. They continued until they reached a ridge where the wind picked up, rattling the branches and carrying distant echoes through the valley. At the edge of the ridge, Ranga almost lost his balance when he saw what lay ahead. A narrow rope bridge, swinging slightly in the breeze, crossing over a deep gorge. The old man checked every knot, pulling on each line until he was satisfied it would hold. "Trust me," he said. Ranga nodded, heart hammering, and took the first step onto the bridge. The wood creaked, ropes swayed, but the old man's calm presence behind him was enough to keep him moving. When they reached the other side, Ranga sank to his knees, relief flooding through him. The old man stood tall, scanning the cliffs once more. "This place remembers everything," he said, almost to himself. Ranga looked around, trying to see what the old man saw, but there was only rock, wind, and sky. As night came again, they found shelter under a large overhanging boulder. The old man lit another fire, and Ranga sat close to its warmth, feeling his fear ease just a little. But there was still a question burning inside him, a question he could not hold back. "Why do you know all of this?" Ranga asked, voice small. The old man did not answer right away. He stared into the flames, his face carved with lines of pain and memory. "One day, you will understand," he finally said, voice steady but sad. Ranga nodded, though he felt no closer to the truth. As he lay down to sleep, he could hear the faint sound of water dripping somewhere deep in the rocks, like a clock counting down to something he did not yet know. The first light of dawn spilled over the mountains, turning the fog a pale gold. Ranga woke with a start, heart racing, unsure if it dreamed of voices or really heard them through the night. The old man was already awake, stirring the last embers of their fire. He looked rested, though Ranga could not remember seeing him sleep even once. "Come," the old man said. They climbed a steep trail lined with thorn bushes, the path barely more than a scratch across the hillside. Ranga winced as a thorn scraped his arms, but he kept going, refusing to slow the old man down. The higher they climbed, the quieter the world became. Even the birds seemed to fall silent, as if watching them with hidden eyes. When they reached the ledge, the old man stopped, pointing to a series of faint tracks in the mud. "Boar," he said. "Fresh." Ranga froze, remembering the wild beast from before. The old man motioned him to stay close, and they moved carefully, listening for any sound. No attack came, and soon they left the tracks behind. But Ranga's heartbeat did not settle, a constant reminder of how fragile their safety was. The day grew long as they pushed deeper into the mountain's heart. Ranga began to notice small things, how the old man always checked the wind direction, how he read the clouds before deciding which way to go, how he paused to listen for sounds Ranga could not even hear. It was as if he could talk to the mountain itself. In the late afternoon, they reached a narrow gorge with walls rising high on either side. The path was so tight, they had to move sideways to squeeze through. Halfway in, Ranga felt the ground tremble. A low rumble echoed around them, making the rocks shiver. "Landslide," the old man warned. "Move." They scrambled forward, feet slipping, arms scraping stone. Behind them, a cascade of rocks tumbled down, smashing trees and sending dust choking through the air. Ranga coughed, eyes stinging, but the old man pulled him onward until they broke free of the gorge and fell to their knees on solid ground. For a moment neither spoke. They only listened to mountains settle back into silence, the last pebbles still clattering far below. "Thank you," Ranga managed to say through ragged breaths. The old man nodded, breathing steadily. "You are not meant to die here," he said. They rested under a leaning pine tree, catching their breath. The old man checked Ranga's arm for injuries, tying a clean bandage around a bleeding scrape. His hands were steady, sure, the hands of someone who had patched up worse wounds before. As night fell, they stayed near the pine tree, too tired to build a fire. The stars were bright above them, cutting through the darkness like tiny lanterns. Ranga lay awake, staring at the sky, while the old man sat with his back against the trunk, always watching, always guarding. In that moment, Ranga realized something had changed inside him. The old man was no longer just a stranger or a savior. He had become something more, something like a father, though no words had been spoken to claim that bond. And though he still did not know the truth about who this man was, Ranga felt a deep, unexplainable trust, as if they had been tied together by a promise older than either of them could name. The next morning, the forest seemed calmer. Birds returned, singing soft melodies that floated through the damp air. Ranga woke to the sound of the old man sharpening his knife once again, the rhythmic scrape oddly comforting. They ate a handful of wild berries the old man had gathered at dawn. It was not much, but it eased Ranga's hunger enough to keep moving. They set out along a ridge that snaked across the mountainside, the trail narrow and exposed. A single misstep could send them plunging into the rocks far below. Ranga kept close, copying the old man's every movement. As they crossed a patch of loose gravel, Ranga slipped. Panic shot through him, but the old man's strong hand caught his arm in an instant, pulling him back before he fell. Focus, the old man reminded, calm but firm. Ranga nodded, swallowing his fear. Far ahead, they saw a clearing, and for the first time in days, Ranga thought he recognized something. An old marker, placed there by other hikers long ago, still stood. Hope sparked in his chest. "Look," Ranga said, voice shaking with excitement. The old man studied the marker carefully, then nodded. "We are close," he said. They rested under a crooked tree, letting Ranga drink the last of his water. The old man refused even a sip, saying he was fine. As they sat in the shade, Ranga watched the old man's hands. They were scarred, knuckles worn, each line on his skin telling a story of hardship and survival. He could not help asking again. "Were you a soldier?" Ranga whispered. The old man paused, staring into the distance, before answering. "Once," he said quietly. That single word carried a weight Ranga could barely comprehend. The afternoon sun burned down on them as they made their way through the last stretch of forest. Ranga noticed the old man checking for traps, signs of animals, and even faint footprints in the mud. Skills far beyond any normal hiker. He wondered how many battles this man had survived, how many ghosts he carried inside him. Near evening, they reached a slope that offered a view of the valley below. Ranga could see distant rooftops and the glint of a road. Civilization. His heart leapt, but the old man placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "Not yet," he warned. "Why not?" Ranga asked, frustrated. "Because there are still dangers here," the old man explained, scanning the trees with sharp eyes. Ranga sighed, but trusted him, even if he did not fully understand. As night fell, they camped once more under a rocky overhang. The old man built a small fire with careful hands, keeping the flame hidden from the wind. Ranga lay beside it, watching the sparks dance into the night sky. He tried to stay awake, hoping to catch the old man sleeping, but sleep claimed him first. And in that half-dream, half-reality space, he thought he heard the old man speaking to the darkness. "No one else will die here," he seemed to say, voice filled with quiet sorrow. Dawn arrived wrapped in a heavy mist, dimming the first rays of sun. Ranga sat up, bones aching, and saw the old man already awake, checking their meager supplies. They shared a quiet moment, listening to the forest breathe around them. Today, Ranga felt a strange energy in the air, like something was waiting for them beyond the next bend. They started moving, following a trail marked by faint scratches on tree trunks, as if someone long ago had tried to leave a message. The path led them downward, toward the valley Ranga had seen from above. Each step felt like walking into a memory, the air thick with stories Ranga could not name. Halfway down, they reached a fork in the trail. The old man paused, looking both ways, then chose a narrower route, hidden behind tall ferns. Ranga followed without question, even though the other path looked easier. The trail was dark, branches weaving above their heads until the light nearly disappeared. Ranga felt the hair on his arms stand up. Something moved in the shadows. The old man raised a hand, signaling Ranga to stay close. They walked slowly, careful with every footstep. Ahead, a shape emerged from the gloom. A man, lost and stumbling, clothes torn, eyes wild with fear. "Help!" he rasped, falling to his knees. The old man hurried forward, checking him quickly for wounds. The stranger had a twisted ankle and was shaking from exhaustion. "Stay still," the old man said, binding the injury with a piece of cloth. "Who are you?" the stranger asked, voice cracking. "Just someone who knows this place," the old man answered, with the same calm certainty he had given Ranga. Ranga watched as the old man carried the wounded stranger to a safe spot beneath a tree, then handed him a small piece of dried bread from Ranga's bag. Even in his own struggle, he still saved others. The stranger tried to thank him, but the old man waved it off, already scanning the trail ahead for more danger. When they finally moved on, Ranga felt a weight settle in his chest. This was no ordinary man. This was someone bound by a promise stronger than fear, a silent oath he refused to break. They walked until the trees began to thin, and sunlight touched the ground again. The old man slowed, breathing deep as if testing the air. "Almost there," he said. Ranga felt hope bloom in his chest. They set up one last small camp, a few hundred meters from what looked like a rescue post in the valley below. Ranga could see a red-roofed cabin, a flag fluttering in the wind. Almost safe. The old man sat with his back against a rock, eyes never closing, still watching over Ranga as if nothing else mattered. That night, Ranga could not sleep. He kept replaying everything in his mind. Every time the old man had pulled him back from the edge, every moment he had chosen to protect a stranger without hesitation. Who was he really? Ranga wondered. And why did he care so deeply? But the old man did not offer answers, only that same silent strength, as if guarding a secret that will reveal itself only at the right moment. The first rays of the morning sun broke through the canopy, painting the forest in shades of gold. Ranga felt hope rise in his chest, knowing they were so close to safety. He packed up what little was left, and the old man stood waiting, quiet and steady as always. Today, Ranga could see the rescue post clearly through the thinning trees. A small wooden cabin with a radio antenna, smoke curling from a stove chimney. The promise of help, warmth, and an end to fear. The trail was easier now, but Ranga still followed the old man's every move, unwilling to let go of that sense of security. As they walked, Ranga looked around, trying to memorize every rock and tree. Part of him wanted to leave no piece of this journey behind, even the pain and fear. They reached a stream with clear water, cold and sweet. Ranga drank deeply, splashing some on his face. The old man did not drink. He only watched, eyes distant, as if remembering something no one else could see. After resting, they crossed the stream and climbed one last ridge. The trail was rough, overgrown, and littered with broken branches. As they reached the top, Ranga saw a small group of people in bright jackets, waving at them. Rescue workers. Ranga nearly ran to them, tears burning behind his eyes, but the old man held up a hand. "Slow," he warned. Ranga obeyed, breathing deep, trying to steady his legs. When they finally approached, one of the rescuers called out, "Are you Ranga?" "Yes," Ranga shouted back, voice cracking. The rescuer nodded, relief spreading across his face. "We've been searching for you for days." Ranga turned to thank the old man, but found him standing a few steps back, eyes calm, a faint smile on his weathered face. Ranga wanted to call him forward, to introduce him, but before he could, the rescuers were already pulling him into their circle, checking his pulse, asking questions. He looked back, searching for the old man, but the stranger had disappeared into the trees, silent and unseen, just as he had arrived. A rescuer noticed Ranga turning around. "Who are you looking for?" he asked. "The man who helped me," Ranga explained. The rescuer frowned. "We haven't seen anyone else on the mountain," he said. Ranga felt a chill travel down his spine. He tried to protest, but something in the rescuer's face told him it was no use. They would never believe him. As they led him toward the cabin, Ranga glanced back at the forest one last time. A breeze moved through the trees, carrying the faintest echo of a voice he could almost hear. "You are safe now." He closed his eyes, holding on to that sound, knowing deep inside that whoever the old man really was, he would never be forgotten. Ranga sat inside the rescue post, wrapped in a thick blanket, hands still shaking from everything that had happened. A medic checked his wounds, gave him warm tea, and spoke in a calm voice meant to comfort. But Ranga's mind was far away, replaying each moment with the old man. When the team asked how he survived, Ranga explained in detail about the stranger who guided him, protected him, and brought him to safety. The rescuers exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, a man with a lined face and gray hair, stepped closer. "Can you describe him?" he asked gently. Ranga did. Every wrinkle, every scar, every calm gesture burned into his memory. The rescuer grew pale, eyes wide, then looked at the others. "Wait here," he told Ranga. He stepped into a back room and returned moments later with a framed photograph. The picture was old, the edges yellowed, but Ranga recognized a man instantly. It was him. Ranga stared, heart pounding, unable to breathe. This man, the rescuer explained slowly, was a decorated veteran. Years ago, he was stationed here as a mountain search and rescue volunteer. He saved many lives during landslides, storms, and flash floods. Ranga felt tears sting his eyes. "Then why hasn't anyone seen him recently?" he asked. The rescuer sighed, voice heavy. "He died 3 years ago, trying to save 2 lost hikers in the same valley you were found." Ranga felt the world tilt. He wanted to argue, but the photo told its own truth. The same eyes, the same scars, the same faint smile. He was gone, but he'd come back, somehow, to guide Ranga out of the mountain one last time. The rescuers shook their heads, saying maybe Ranga was confused, maybe it was shock. But Ranga knew what he saw, who had held his hand, who had pulled him from the edge of death again and again. He stepped outside the cabin, cold wind brushing against his skin, and looked toward the forest where he'd come from. No movement, no sound, just peaceful silence. But deep inside, Ranga felt certain that the old veteran was still there, watching, guarding, ready to keep his promise for anyone who dared to cross those mountains again. The mountain would always remember him, and so would Ranga, forever carrying the silent courage of a soldier who refused to let anyone die alone.